Okay, let's talk about quarantine hotels. So I stayed in a quarantine hotel in Trondheim in Norway for 9 days at the end of January, beginning of February. So this information might not be up to date, so take it with a grain of salt. The specific hotel I stayed in was called Quality Hotel Augustine in the center of Trondheim. I think it should be similar for other quarantine hotels in Norway. 5 things I want to talk about with these quarantine hotels. Number 1, the arrival at the airport. When I arrived in Norway, they checked the COVID test and the registration that I had to take online, and they asked where I was staying, and I said at the quarantine hotel. The thing is, you can state a preference where you would like to stay, but in the end, they're just going to assign you to a quarantine hotel and you have to go to that one. After they checked all the formalities, I had to wait for a COVID test to be taken right after I arrived. And during that time, they arranged the hotel. And after the test, I went to the counter and they told me which hotel I was going to and how I would get there, which in my case was taking a bus. When I arrived at the hotel, they already had all the information about me, so I didn't really have to tell them anything and I could check in right away. The price of the quarantine hotel is 500 Norwegian krones per day. You have to stay there for 10 days, but you might be able to leave early. More about that later. Number 2, the room. The room was just a normal, nice hotel room. I had a nice, comfortable bed. I had a small desk, which was decent. The chair was okay, maybe not suitable for longer working sessions. There was a big television that I did not use because I didn't have a cable to connect my laptop to. A little thing to sit on where I sat for meditation and when I had breakfast. The bathroom was nice, a shower and a nice sink and towels and soap and a tissue dispenser. That was pretty good, and I think for what you pay, it's actually a really, really good deal. The internet connection was decently fast, not super fast, but it was very stable, so that was good, and it was fast enough for all my needs. Number 3, the food, which is probably one of the most interesting things about staying at a quarantine hotel. You get 3 meals per day delivered to your door. They are in a small paper bag and they knock as soon as they put it in front of your door, and then you can take it in. When I checked into the room, they asked me about my food preferences, so I said I wanted to eat vegetarian. So I'm not sure how specific it can get, but if you have any allergies or if you're vegan, I think you should be fine. You might not be able to get a big variety of foods, the more specific you get with that. For me, the portion sizes were actually pretty big. It was much more than I was used to, but I think that was good for me personally, because I usually eat not enough. Everything was pretty much pre-packed and heated up, but the breakfast was great because usually you get some toast or bread and you get some spread and you make it yourself, and then some fruit and a yogurt, some eggs sometimes. So breakfast was always my favorite, but the other food was still good enough, and I liked it. It was pretty good. And there was also coffee and tea in the lobby and a water dispenser to fill up your water bottle if you didn't want to use a sink. Number 4, quarantine duration and the second test. The quarantine duration is 10 days, but after 7 days, you can take another test. And if that test is negative, you are allowed to leave the quarantine early. In my case, it took 2 days for the test result, a little bit more than 2 days. So I stayed for 9 days in total, and I got 1 day's worth of pay back when I left the hotel. If you're tested positive, I think you will be transferred to a so-called isolation hotel, because in Norway there is a difference between quarantine and isolation. Number 5, and the last point, just miscellaneous and conclusion. One thing that's really interesting about quarantine hotels in Norway, or quarantine in Norway in general, is that you are allowed to leave the hotel and go outside for walks. That is different from a lot of other countries. Some requirements for doing that are you have to wear a mask, you have to keep your distance from other people, which also means that you should avoid places where a lot of people are gathering, and you can't go inside any store or anything. So just for walking outside, get some fresh air, get moving a little bit. So for me, that was really improving the quality of the time I had there. The hotel staff was really nice and helpful. I asked them a few questions at some point, so they were nice. It was good. For me, the time flew by very quickly. I could work remotely, so I had some work every weekday, and then I scheduled calls with my friends almost every evening. So basically my days were filled and I didn't have any issues passing the time there. My overall experience was really good. I think it really depends on what kind of person you are. I don't have much of a problem with staying to myself, and so even if I didn't schedule calls every day with my friends, I think I would have been fine for those 10 days. So I thought that this would maybe be interesting for you. The thing is that Norway now has an entry ban for any non-Norwegian people. So right now you can't even come to Norway if you're not Norwegian. But I think after the travel ban is lifted, things might be very similar to what I experienced. So if you're interested in coming to Norway, I hope you get some value out of this video. If you have any questions about my experience at the quarantine hotel, please leave them in the comments down below. And thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Bye bye.